In this video, we introduce some of the basic concepts behind the internet and how it works. The internet is the most widely known wide area network. It is simply a collection of interconnected networks that span the world. People often think of the internet as the World Wide Web, but in reality, this is just a service on the internet. The internet itself is just the hardware, the cables, the wireless connections and the routers that make the internet what it is. In this image, we see a representation of what the internet actually looks like. Each white dot represents a router, and each coloured line a connection to a router. You can pick out star shapes that are local area networks. This is a simplified diagram of what a very small part of the image may actually look like. Our home network has a number of devices connected to a wireless router. The home router is connected to an internet service provider router, either by telephone connection or fibre. Our internet service provider is connected to a domain name server and to other routers on the backbone of the internet. And those routers are further connected to their own LANs and other routers and servers. Typical uses of the internet include browsing web pages, pages of information connected together with hyperlinks that can be read using software called a browser. Web pages are held on a web server. Each server is connected to the internet with a router and therefore has an IP address. When you request a page on a server, you would need to refer to its IP address. Now, this is not very convenient for humans as we're not very good at remembering sequences of numbers. We prefer to use words. For example, the BBC web server may be at IP address 212.58.244.67, but we would prefer to remember a URL such as bbc.co.uk. Special servers on the internet called domain name servers convert a URL into an IP address for the routers to use. As websites need to be on a server that is always available 24/7 and may have to serve the page thousands of times a second and be secure from hackers, they tend to be stored on servers called web servers that are dedicated to this task. Storing a website on a web server is known as hosting. Servers can also be used to store data and programs that can be accessed and used over the internet. This is known as cloud storage or working in the cloud. The advantage of cloud storage rather than storing data and programs on your PC include the ability to access your information anytime, anywhere, from any device, a much larger potential storage capacity, automatic backing up of data, and the ability to easily share files with others, which makes collaboration on documents a possibility. Just before we summarise what you've learned in this video, let's look in a little more detail at how the domain name service actually turns a human readable URL, such as www.google.com, into an IP address. So it's a multi-step process which begins with the URL being received by a domain name service resolver server. This server then queries a DNS root name server. The root name server responds with the address of the top level domain name for, in this case, .com. The resolver then makes a request to the .com top level domain server, or TLD. The TLD server then responds with the IP address of the domain's name server, in this case google.com. Lastly, the recursive resolver sends a query to the domain's name server. The IP address for google.com, in this case 8.8.8.8, is then returned to the resolver from the name server. The DNS resolver then responds to the web browser with the IP address of google.com. Now, don't be too worried about remembering the names of all the various servers for the exam. Just make sure you understand the concept. The domain name service is not simply one server, but is instead made up of multiple domain name servers, as shown here. Here's a summary of everything we've gone through in this video. Pause it now and take some notes.